Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes, your host for the first hour of today's show, because today is Thursday, April 18th, 2019. So welcome. We're honored to have all of you here, whether live or on the archives. And we're here to support people in using and growing in the, I'll say, proficiency at using tools to help improve the quality of your life. And the primary set of tools available for that is available at whyagain.org. And if you click on the red and white bullseye or the link in the upper left-hand corner that says Start Here, it'll give you access to more tools than you'll be able to get through in the next few years. We recommend that people start by reading Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And then downloading the latest version of the 7-step reality management worksheet process, which contains the ancient Aramaic tool of forgiveness. And we recommend people watch the PowerPoint presentation by Bill Cosentino numerous times to get some deeper understanding of why and how this process works. And then there are a host of audio files like this show where people have called in and been stepped through the worksheet process, and they're available as a tutorial and for deepening your understanding of these tools. Again, briefly, the forgiveness process from the ancient Aramaic is a tool for reaching inside myself and removing whatever energies don't belong. And the energies that don't belong there, aside from being a warning to let me know that my thoughts are off the mark, the energies that don't belong are any negative emotion, any recurring negative thought, and any negative physical sensation. So I will take a breath and welcome area code 616. So we're so often asking people to raise a hand. Our call-in number is 563-999-3581, and there are already two people with their hands up. So area code 616. You're in the air. Who do we have, and how can we support you?
Hi, Dr. Tim. It's Nancy in Grand Rapids.
Hello, Nancy. How can we support you today?
Well, I have a question that's a little bit off topic of Aramaic forgiveness, but maybe on. It's about the termination process that you talked about in your support group, and I believe on the show a number of times. I have an opportunity. I am leaving a job position and have an opportunity to introduce that briefly, perhaps, to my boss. And I'm wondering how I could do that, the quickest, easiest way to do that, because they will be on a time limit. And if I can do it on my end, if they are not reciprocal to that. That's my thought.
All right, wonderful question, and I hope to have useful answers for you. I had a situation where I worked at a job for about 5 years, maybe 7 years, I forget exactly now, but I worked there part-time, 2 or 3 nights a week, and I'm going to go ahead and mute you while I answer so you can listen, because there's a lot of noise back there.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I had this job where I went to this location 2 and sometimes 3 nights a week for at least 5 years. It might have been 7. And I interacted with doctors. I interacted with nurses. I interacted with receptionists repeatedly. They were basically the same people were there for the whole 5 years. And when it came time for me to leave, I knew I was leaving. I'd given my notice. I prepared summary statements, very brief summary statements for the key people. There were probably 15 of them, and probably 10 of them I actually prepared. I wrote out brief statements that were a statement of my appreciation for their presence, what they brought to their work, how their work made my work easier, how for the few people, the 3 or 4 of them that I'd actually gotten to know something about their families, their children, etc., how I appreciated their sharing, and how, and for 1 or 2 of them, how I reviewed in that statement how, it was a bit challenging at first. We didn't seem to connect, or, it was hard to get to know you, but I'm glad things finally turned around. But these were just brief statements that I could make in a 2 or 3 minute interaction, which would throw the door open if they wanted to share something or ask, why are you doing this? I could say more, but I simply created a review of my appreciation of them and my history of my interaction with them in our relationship. I remember one head nurse in particular who, when I first got there, was very bristly and seemed to dislike me. And so I asked if I could, within the first couple weeks, I asked if I could have some time to talk with her. I made it a point to come in early before my scheduled hours and just clear the air. And we cleared up a very erroneous assumption on her part. And it opened the door to be one of the warmest and most rewarding patterns of interaction that I had while I was working there. And so when I prepared my statement for her, I reiterated that. I said, I remember when I first came here, and it was just like I was like the burr under your saddle. It seemed like every time I came in the door, I'd watch your smile turn to a frown, and I'm so grateful that you were willing to have a talk with me and clear the air, and it's just been a joy to have you here when I come to work each day. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss this kind of story. I'm going to miss, your sense of humor. Whatever it was, it would be slightly different for each person. And I created those statements, and then over the course of that 2-week period, as I ran into each of them, I made it a point to ask if I could have a minute of their time. To a person, each one said, "Oh, don't be silly, you'll be back. Oh, nobody's gone forever. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it." And they basically shut it down. Some of them shut me off in mid-statement. And that's fine, because I already got the benefit of the termination process. I already took the time to review my life learnings, my appreciation, my frustrations with my pattern of interaction with them. And that's my offering for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense, because I don't know how it will be received. I have a meeting with one of the bosses on Monday, and I'm also going to do a responsibility communication with her, because there's some challenges as to a couple things, how they were perceived or happened within the past couple months. So that will be good to do that. And then I have a couple other bosses that what I'm hearing you say is if I can get a minute of their time and have something prepared, that will be. And that was my thought here. It will be helpful to me whether or not they respond in whatever way
Exactly.
they respond.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it really, and it remind me, is your name Nancy?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing right.
So it really helps me just to begin, especially with relationships like that aren't so in-depth and aren't so emotionally invested. It helps me begin to build facility with that tool.
Yes.
And to remember that since every relationship has a beginning and a middle and an end, and each phase of the relationship has tasks and goals, here I am ending this work relationship. My task is to review my life learnings from that relationship, and my goal is to, for myself at least, even if I can't get the other person to acknowledge it, my goal is for me to acknowledge and process any emotions that go along with the realization that this is over. Even if this relationship starts up again later in a different capacity, it'll never be the way it was during this period of time that I worked here. And in our culture, people really don't like to do that. And as evidenced by the anecdote I just shared, not one person said, "Oh yeah, I really am going to miss you too," and they all said, "Oh, you'll be back. Oh, stop. It's no big deal. No one stays away forever. We'll see you again." And they basically just shut off any of their own ability to sit with the fact that this isn't going to happen anymore. So,
right. When I listened to your, it is. When I listened to it, it's amazing actually, because when I listened to your presentation to the support group, I'm not sure if it was last Thursday, I listened to the replay because I wasn't able to, and that Thursday nights don't really work for me that great to be on live. But I started thinking back on all the relationships I've had, be it work, personal, friends, whatever, and I thought to myself, I never did this with anybody. I never really did this with, well, maybe a few people by default, but, really consciously did a process like this. So, yeah, it's very helpful. That's what brought it to mind in this circumstance as well.
And the other thought I have is that if you are going to do a responsibility communication work with one of your bosses, that what I find very valuable is to write and rewrite it and then have somebody check it to make sure that I have pulled out any of the strong emotions or hidden blame, and to make sure that I'm following the actual spirit of the responsibility communication, which is simply a statement of the fact that I have an issue and I want to heal my issue, and I'm taking 100% responsibility for the creation of and the need to resolve this issue.
I think I've done that. I used Joy's outline. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to let you know that I used Joy's outline on the WIGAN website, and I did read it on the show yesterday, on Michael's portion of the show. But in addition to that, what would you think? I mean, you probably know what Joy's outline is. It seemed to flow, and it seemed, I'll reread it again this weekend. Would I then start off with that would be my guess, and then go on into the termination portion of it, if time allows? Any thoughts on that?
Without you giving me more details about the relationship and what the responsibility communication is about, I can't really comment. If you think this person's going to be receptive, you can do it in any order you want. But the other thing is, you really are doing this for yourself, and you're really just mapping out for yourself your learnings from the relationship, and helping yourself step into the allowance and acceptance of the realization that the relationship is over. And then you're doing the responsibility communication to try to get clear on how your mind and your interpretation of events has generated something less than a loving perception, so that you can heal or dismantle or integrate that less than loving perception.
Yes. Noted. Yes. Okay. That's helpful. I believe it. It is.
And if you already read it on the show yesterday, I'm certain that if there was anything glaring, Michael would have pointed it out.
That would be my thought as well. Yeah. So I think that's in alignment. And thank you. That's very helpful.
Well, I'm grateful that you found that discussion and that process of value. It's a joy for me to be able to share that with people, and I hope you find it of increasing value on through your life.
Thank you. I'm sure I will.
Anything else we can support you with today?
No, I believe I'm complete.
All right. We appreciate the call. Have a blessed day.
All right. You too. Take care.
Bye-bye. So, area code 910, you're in the air. How can we support you?
Hi, it's Jill from Wilmington.
Jill from Wilmington. There's a blast from the past. Hello, Jill.
Hi.
How are you?
Listening. I just hadn't needed, today I needed to call. I've been counting the minutes until you came on the air. I would love to walk through a wake-up sheet or just, use some of the tools to deal with an event that happened, and I'm both distressed and excited because this could be, the time to sweep a bunch of stuff out that's ready to go.
All right. So, what's, I'm always up for stepping somebody through a worksheet process. And so we can do that, or we can have you, do you have a worksheet in front of you? You have a format that you like to use of the various worksheets that are available?
Well, I pulled up the 7-step, I guess it is, the long form. I have that on my screen. The 7-step. Often I will do the apps. I like that if I'm, kind of a good on-the-fly thing.
Yeah.
And, but because you were coming on soon, because this just happened, and because I am in distress, I thought we could go for the long form.
Okay.
But I don't
so
have
the
to.
7-step.
I guess.
All right. So the 7-step worksheet process. You have one up there. Is it one of the most recent?
It is. It's from the website, so it's probably the most recent one.
Okay. So do you want to give a little intro, or do you want to just start working out the worksheet?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. The short story is that I had some work done in my yard, and I feel like I was overcharged. And I have a lot of emotion about this. Weird, because, but I'll tell you, so I think my main upset is that I'm really mad at myself because I defaulted to this, the agreeable good girl programming. This person gave me a price, and I thought, well, that seems a little high, but okay, I'll go along with it, telling myself a whole bunch of reasons why I should. And it turns, the reason I found out I feel this was an overcharge is because he quoted some work from my neighbor, which was a lot more work at a far better price. And so I actually called this person who did the work, and I asked him to explain, and I got not a good explanation, but here I am stuck. And so I
All right,
stuck myself.
So we need to have you take a breath while the emotions are up. And the tears came up right when you said that I defaulted to the agreeable good girl position.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know why that brings tears, and you do. So breathe into that and get in touch with what are the thoughts that go along with the words that I defaulted to the agreeable good girl position that generate tears. And then you can help sort out, are those tears sadness? Are those tears anger and frustration? What are they? Are they hurt?
I am, few things. First off, I'm furious at myself because in order to appear like a nice person, I accepted a price that I didn't think was fair. And so I shortchanged myself in that. And so I'm angry. And also I feel stupid because I did that. And I'm upset with myself for not being able to say, no, that price isn't good for me. Instead, I said yes.
So keep breathing. So you've got anger for accepting a price that you knew wasn't good, feeling stupid, and when you say it, it feels like those words are dripping with a negative emotion, maybe anger.
Yes.
And this accepting price had something to do with wanting to look good or wanting to be liked. I'm not sure what you would say there.
Probably wanting to be liked. It's, the agreeable good girl, like, the programming is to just go along, to not ruffle somebody else's feathers, like, and at this point, this is more of it. It used to be okay, and maybe I wasn't even conscious of my own feathers being ruffled, for lack of a better phrase. I was much more willing to keep it smooth for everybody else and to just suck it up myself. And so much so that I probably didn't even know I was doing that. Now, I am angry that I sucked it up. I'm going to say it's not okay, even though I know I'm using a negative, but I'm aware that I traded my own well-being for some stranger to think I was nice, and that's not acceptable.
Okay, so breathe into this. And just keep breathing as you notice that every time you get to that agreeable, good girl phrase, the tears and emotion get more intense. And then understand, before we launch into the worksheet, that when you do things just to look good or to get people to think you're good, especially when there are things that are not in your best interest, what we know is going on is that when I do that, I'm covering up a feeling inside of me that I'm bad or damaged or broken or unlovable or unworthy, something of that nature. That has to be going on at a deeper level in order for me to take an action that just to try and look good. If I already feel like I'm good and worthy and loving in my core, I don't have to take actions to try and present that to people. Do you follow that?
Yes.
So breathe. And so we have a number of worksheets we could do here. We have one where I feel anger because I've accepted a price that wasn't good because I wanted to look good. We have one where my thought is I feel stupid, and we could decide what emotion goes with that. We have this phrase, the agreeable good girl, and we could explore a worksheet on that. And we have what we know is a dynamic that underlies this process, that I think I'm damaged or broken. That I think at some level, if people they got close enough to see the real me, they would either attack me or run away from me. So just breathe. And give me your best thoughts about which worksheet would be most productive for you today?
Well, I think that if I were to start with any of the emotions like anger or stupid, which is kind of embarrassed or ashamed, I would probably get to the part where you say that I'm covering up. And obviously my emotions have something to say about this too. That I'm covering up, that I'm bad or damaged or unlovable.
Okay,
and then
so
you said, yeah.
So you breathe into the emotion that's right there. You've done some worksheets with me before, and we've gotten our best results when we follow your emotions.
Yeah.
So when you start crying again, when you talk about how you realize there's a part of you that feels damaged or broken or unlovable, just breathe. And is that sadness in those tears?
I
Is that
think
the
it's
sadness?
grief. I
Grief?
think it is sadness.
Yeah.
And also there is a little maybe, fear. I have to cover it up. You said something about, the person would attack or run away, and attack really resonated. I feel like it is related to placating them.
Placating so they won't run away?
Or attack.
Okay.
Probably more so attack. It has more, resonates more for me for this particular situation. I'm sure runaway also, because abandonment is a thing. But attack had more energy for me in this particular situation.
Okay, and so I, Jill, who am love, and am experiencing, which emotion do you want to put in here behind those tears?
All right, I'm not sure, but what I'm feeling right now is almost like I want to gag or throw up.
Good. So breathe into that. So whichever it is, whether it's grief or fear, it's so intense that your body is saying you can't handle this.
Yeah.
So just breathe and be here with me in that part of your mind that can step back and watch that with curiosity and say, isn't that interesting? There's some old, younger, hidden part of my mind that believes I can't survive the experience of some emotional energy moving through me. And just breathe. And just breathe. So from that part of you that can step back and realize and watch, what emotion do you think would be most difficult for you to feel in a strong flood of energy moving through you? Fear? Grief?
I think fear comes first.
Okay. So let's do the worksheet on that. So I, Jill, who am love, and am experiencing the emotion of fear. And does this go to terror? Is it that strong? Or is it just there's a level of fear that might make you feel like you're going to gag that isn't even terror yet?
I think we could walk into terror a little bit. I feel cold, frozen.
Okay. So we'll put fear and terror. Just breathe. how strong would you say that is if you're going up there? Are we 8 or 9? Are we 10? Are we 12? Are we 118? What are we on the 0 to 10 scale?
I give it a solid 10.
Okay. So then I just get reminded in the worksheet process that hostility and fear come from internal corrupt data, and they indicate my mind's use of a process that just creates more pain in the process of trying to alleviate my pain. They call it sustained incoherence. And that process keeps building my internal picture in my mind. And that picture in my mind wants me to believe that someone or something outside of my true self is causing my upset. So in this case, you would say, you're the trigger?
Yeah.
And Jill is the trigger. And what Jill did was, just basically accepted a price you knew wasn't good.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so we just keep that very simple. And I accepted a price I knew wasn't good. And then we just want to remind ourselves that if I'm in pain, my thinking is in error. And then I want to identify what's the thought I'm using to create my terror. Because the truth is, only my thoughts cause my emotional upset. So if you breathe into this, what thought are you using to create your terror?
I have to go along with this even though I know it's not right.
Okay, notice your energy when you say that. The terror isn't there.
Yeah.
So how about a thought like, I'll never be good enough?
Mm.
Or a thought like, if people knew that I'm not perfect, they'll attack me or they'll leave me. Play around with those thoughts until you hit one that really resonates the terror. Keep your breath moving. What do you get? What thought can we use to generate terror?
Well, I can tell you that I feel terror right now. Like I feel it in my body. I have a lot of energy just going through me. But what's coming up is pretending, like being fake. Because I knew that this was not good. And I didn't
okay. So is your thought that creates terror a thought like, I have to pretend to be nice?
Maybe, yeah.
Or people will attack me?
Yeah.
Or I have to pretend to be agreeable? That word agreeable, the agreeable good girl, brought tears. So how about the thought is, I have to pretend to be agreeable in order to be safe?
Yes, that's better. Yeah, because there's this element of like, I am retreating and hiding behind this facade of the good girl.
All right, so I have to pretend to be agreeable. We'll use that word that resonates so much for you in order to be safe. And that'll be your thought for 1D. And just breathe. What are you noticing when you write that sentence?
I notice that I'm very dizzy. And I notice that feeling of choking and puking is back.
Okay. So take a breath where you hold it on the inhale for a few counts at the top, and then slowly resist the exhale. So the exhale is nice and long. And just get centered. And then let's move on to what your punishment thought is. What's your punishment thought for yourself?
I want to beat myself up for being stupid.
Okay, that's perfect. We already mentioned that one, so we're blending that one in. Beating myself up for being stupid. And just breathe. And we just want to highlight how ridiculous this whole process is. Because when you say the word stupid, the implication is a lack of intelligence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And yet, you had plenty of intelligence to know that this was not a good price. So
Right.
This isn't about a lack of intelligence. So you just want to breathe and understand. What we're going to do in a worksheet process like this is uncover the part of your mind for which accepting this overcharge price was a necessary thing to avoid something even worse. So just breathe. And then let's just read number 2. I choose to love truth and willingly face and process out all of these disease-producing energies for and from all of my relations and my generations. And just breathe. All that energy of feeling like I'm going to be dizzy, I'm going to be sick to my stomach, I can't survive this energy moving through my system. That's an old pattern, either just in your life or perhaps in the bloodline. Maybe for women and men, and just willingly go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing. And just breathe. And you might remember back to June 30th of 2016 when the first time you called in and did a worksheet, and there was terror in that worksheet and how much better you felt when it was over. So you just use those experiences over time to help reassure yourself, different parts of yourself, that not only is this safe, this is a useful process to engage in. And just breathe. It's all just energy, and it's going to move through me. And then there's a release in the little box that says, I release and surrender myself and my emotions of terror. I surrender my trigger, which is me, and my story that I accepted a bad price because I wanted to be liked and look good. I release my thoughts that I have to pretend to be agreeable in order to be safe. And I release my punishment thoughts of beating myself up for being stupid. I'm going to release all of that to this energy of creation that we call love. Just breathe. And then we read the little release on the side which says, if someone or something outside of me is the problem, why am I the one with the pain? And then I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need to make up another story out of these brain cells to try and hallucinate proof that my fear and hostility-based story, that my false picture is true. So breathe into that and do that verbal cancellation. And then we come to number 3. My desire, the constructive result, the exact goal that drives my pain perception is that I do what differently? What is it that if you could do it differently, it would mean there would be no terror here, there would be no thought that I accepted a bad price just to look good, there would be no thought that I have to pretend to be agreeable in order to be safe. What's the exact goal for yourself?
I'd be able to say no.
Okay, so what would be what? Say again.
That I'd just be able. Well, I say I would be able to stand up for myself. It feels like standing up for myself. Like saying no is protecting myself from the overcharge, from being taken advantage of.
Okay, but if we look back to what's going on in this worksheet, it's not about you being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
It's about your belief that you have to pretend to be agreeable in order to be safe. It's about your wanting to look good so that you're not attacked. It's about your falling into the defense mechanism of being the agreeable good girl so that you don't get attacked.
So I see the word no and I see that as being disagreeable.
Right. I'm trying to go a little bit deeper and say, how about a goal like being able to understand your perfect safety? How about a goal to be able to understand the immense value you have, the deep, loving nature of your true self? Take a breath. What would it be like if you knew and experienced it moment to moment that you're loved, loving, and lovable forever, that your true nature is the energy of love, that you radiate value?
Oh, yeah. That. It's funny. I'm laughing because that would change everything. That should be the goal, yeah.
Okay, so there's the goal. So my goal is, the constructive result I want is to live in the realization that I am as valuable as any person that's ever been. That I radiate the profound essence of life and love. So let me know when you've chosen the words that you want to write in there for your goal.
I would say something like that I'm always conscious of my intrinsic value.
All right, let's just word the
And
use.
as valuable as anyone else.
Let's use a word like profound value.
Yeah. Profound.
Always conscious of my profound value.
And I want to say something about that it's as valuable as anyone else, because there is some sense of I am less than. So yeah, the goal would be that I'm always conscious of my own profound value and that it is equal to that of anyone else.
So, always conscious of my profound value equal to anyone else.
Yeah.
So that's your goal. And if you had the ability to be conscious of your deeply profound value that's equal to anyone who's ever lived, then it probably wouldn't be possible for you to accept a bad price just to want to look good. And it wouldn't be necessary for you to put on a false, agreeable good girl face just to try and keep safe from attack.
That's right.
So just breathe. And then we move on to number 4. And number 4 is a challenge for some people because we want to not just read the words, we want to actually step into choosing love, which is our essence. To love in everyone involved. So what's a loving thought that you can think until you have that warm, loving energy rolling in your heart space?
Well, I have a picture of my son here at my desk.
Okay, are you getting it?
Oh, yeah.
Are you breathing into it? Good. Breathe into it. Let it bring a smile to your face. Let the energy of your smile turn your mouth up. Let that energy move up into the frontal lobes of your brain. The blessing of your ability to be in his presence, to share in his extension of life force. Just breathe. Everything from the humor to the loving nature to the creativity and intelligence, just breathe it in and let me know when you're ready to move on.
I have gratitude here, too. We can't leave that out.
Okay. And then we read, when I'm upset, my perception is built out of corrupt data. And in this case, it's driven by my goal to always be conscious of my profound value that I'm equal to anyone else. And when I hold a goal like that and it resonates this level of terror, that means focusing on the goal is going to distract me from seeing the source of my terror. So when I cancel that goal, it collapses my mind's lies. So while I hold love conscious, active, and present, I now choose to collapse my mind's lies by willingly canceling my goal to always be conscious of my profound value that I'm equal to anyone else. And just breathe and write that in. 5A. And then we want to move to 5B, where we invite something other than my conscious logical mind. In these worksheets, it's recommended that we invite a higher source, spirit, Ruka Dakucha, an elemental force specific to humans that's there to break off the effects of our errors in thought and guide us to truth and happiness if we just ask it to. But you can invite God, light, love, your great-grandmother, whoever you want, to incline you toward healing, to restore you to your newborn essence of love, to heal your denial and heal your capacity to generate the emotion of terror. Invite that outside source or that deep internal source to help you open a direct conscious relationship with and gently remove the denied, the dissociated, and projected parts of your carbon-based memory. So if you will, just breathe, close your eyes, and silently inside your own mind repeat what I'm going to say out loud. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now. I specifically cancel my goal in this worksheet. to always be conscious of my profound value as equal to anyone else. And I just allow, I put myself in that open space of asking to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this terror. And then I just want to breathe and melt back into that allowing and observing. What random thoughts come to mind? What deep physical sensations move through me? What energies? And I just want to breathe and notice. If any images come up, how old am I? Where am I? Who else is there and what's happening? And just take a few deep breaths and let me know what you're getting, what's going on for you.
I have a lot of vibrating like energy coming through my hands, and I definitely have something happening in my stomach. And what I just thought of was I had to give that up. That goal I had to give up, knowing that I had equal value, that I was valuable, and that I was equal to anyone else. And now I got this catch in my throat like a cough.
So just breathe. And you say that you had to give that up as it's past tense. Do you have an age? Do you have an incident? Do you have a general pattern of time in your life that you had to give that up? What are you noticing?
I don't have a specific age or incident, really. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, I have a picture of a toddler, like 2 years oldish. It's funny, it's not me that I see, it's really my child. I don't know why that is.
Just breathe. Just breathe. Toddler, age 2, what else? Keep the breath moving. When you were age 2, what was the atmosphere like in your house?
It was just me. My brother hadn't been born yet, so it was just me and my parents. And I'm the caretaker of everyone, or I was. And I feel like that was my conscious choice to make. I gave up myself so that I could go along. Wouldn't cause upset by, throwing a fit or having a temper tantrum or doing anything. That is when the word good girl just came into my mind. I chose that.
Okay, so just breathe and just give yourself permission to turn the paper over and make some notes about this. At 2 or 3 years of age, the phrase good girl came into my vocabulary. At 2 or 3 years of age, I remember feeling I need to take care of people. And just breathe. Breathe and watch. But take the time to make as many notes as you can about the catch in your throat, the picture of a toddler at about age 2, but it seems to be your son rather than you, the thought that you had to be a good girl, agreeable good girl at that age, and that was caretaking other people. And anything else that comes to mind, even a physical sensation or a random thought. And make notes about that on the back of the piece of paper or wherever you're making those notes. Take a breath and scan your body and tell me, right now, what's the strongest physical sensation or the strongest emotion?
Strongest physical sensation is just vibrating in my hands, energy in my hands. And the strongest emotion is being here. I get to the sadness and the grief. I want to scoop that little baby up and tell her it's okay, that she doesn't have to do that.
All right, so I want you to just take a breath, and I want you to visualize yourself scooping that little baby up, and just silently in your own mind, exchanging the energy of love and appreciation you have for her. Exchange the energy of knowing that she is as valuable and profoundly, deeply valuable as any person that's ever lived, and just breathe and feel the truth of this visualization of holding her as yourself. You're her, all grown up, breathing, exchanging that energy of appreciation. All of those energies that you felt when you thought about your son, and we did the exercise in step 4 to reconnect with the truth of your loving energy. Just breathe into that energy for a moment or two before we move on. And know that you can come back to this exercise, this visualization, this connecting with that younger part of yourself, this strengthening the observation, the truth that you are as profoundly valuable as anyone who's ever lived, and that you can share that truth with that little toddler. Just breathe. And let me know when you're ready to move on. Make sure you keep the breath moving. What do you notice?
I notice a lot more calm in my body. I feel like lightness in my heart, and definitely like a relief. This might be from my little girl who, shouldn't have to keep. You can put that down now, and I acknowledge her courage, her strength.
Okay, so let me just suggest that you, since we're out of time. We don't have to run because we have the extra hour, but Michael can wait a minute, or he can call in on the regular number. But let me just suggest that you finish the worksheet process, which then cancels the goal for any time you've wanted anybody else to be conscious of their profound value and equal to anybody else, or you've wanted somebody to recognize your profound value. And then you create the loving goal for yourself moving forward. And you do that some point in the very near future. But here's a suggestion for another visualization to do with that 2-year-old version of yourself, is that you get a sense of yourself as the adult, dressed however you are at the moment. So you keep one foot solidly rooted in the reality that you're a competent adult with your own child, and then you get to see an image of that 2-year-old version of yourself who feels so badly, and you walk into that scene as the adult, and you pick up that little 2-year-old and comfort her and let her know that you're her all grown up. And then you let her know that it's perfectly okay for her to have a tantrum. And you might even join her in the tantrum to just feel what that energy is like, to have this resistance, to have this anger, to have this resentment, and just let her cry, kick, scream, throw toys, whatever. Maybe join her. Oh, I'll throw the toy too. I'm mad at that too. And just breathe. And then end with reconnecting with her and your deep awareness of her profound value that's equal to anyone else. And do that several times in the next week. And each time you go, you just ask her, what does she need from you to feel better when you're doing that visualization? And that might give you some other worksheet targets. It might raise some resistance in you. It might facilitate some deeper loving energy for you to feel of, in, through, and as yourself. And that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. I can already feel a few more worksheets coming on, so that's really good. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Tim. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. Is there anything else we can do to support you, or is this an okay place to stop?
I think this is an okay place to stop. I feel like there's more, and be ready for me to call you tomorrow.
Well, you're absolutely welcome to do that, and you also know how to reach me through email at tjage@mindshiftersacademy-org and or the other email that you have.
Thank you.
Blessings, and thank you so much for the call.
Jill?
Yeah.
I just wanted, this is Michelle. Hi, I'm
Hi, Michelle.
in queue to introduce Michael. He's late to the call today, but it worked out perfectly, I believe. You guys had time to wrap up. And I've already texted 3 clients saying as soon as available, because it takes a minute to spool out of queue so I can forward links to listen to the show. I find it personally valuable, and I know I have some clients who are just beginning the process who needs to see someone like you leading the way. And the emotions that you tapped in today were really profound, and I know that's going to stir these people in a way that they're so guarded and so cut off that they need like a little catalyst, and I think this is the kind of show that would do that for them, and so I'm really excited to forward it.
Oh, thank you. That is, I don't even have the words. That's just really so great to hear. Thanks, Michelle.
Oh, yeah. And I actually, one of my favorites, one is the June 6th 2016, because that's in my personal archives when I'm starting people. Like, okay, I don't have time to explain it to you, but listen to this and we'll talk again. One of my go-to. So I agree with Tim on that.
Well, I think that's so awesome to hear, and it's true that when I listen to other people's process, it's so helpful to me, and that's I just know that this works in a dramatic fashion. So when I call for myself, but also I get it that it the way it just resonates out and touches people in ways that who knows why. So it's that's an easy way. Well, it helps me overcome any resistance or hesitation that I might have to doing the work, and especially calling in and doing it on the show. I do want to say that doing it on the show is so powerful, and I want the well-being and the peace that's on the other side of this. So all of that helps grease the wheels.
I agree with everything you're saying. You're right.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I would. There's part of me that wants to stay on, but also I know that my babysitter is going, "Where are you?"
No, it's
so I'm going to do some work on my own, but I will be. This definitely opened up a lot, and I already can tell. I feel a difference in my whole body. So this has been really great.
Well, congratulations on your willingness. That's what does it. And thank you so much for calling and sharing. And Michelle, did you mention that Michael is delayed in getting on, or?
Yeah, Jeannie sent me a text, said he's going to be about 5 minutes delayed.
Okay, so he might be trying to call in, so I will. Pardon me?
She goes to me, keep talking till he gets there. I'm like, okay. So I don't know if he needs to, if you need to hang up for him to host.
I will hang up and I'll call right back in case he's not there yet. But I'll be in on the regular number. So we come from love. We're made of love. We are love. Everything else is false. Thanks, everyone.
All right. We'll wait for Michael to call in. And meanwhile, to remind anybody who's new to the second hour of the show, today's Thursday, April 18th, 2019. I'm Michelle Pichet. I'm filling in for Jeannie, and I'll be joined shortly here with Dr. Michael Rice. We warmly welcome you to the show, and thanks for choosing to spend some time with us this afternoon. The call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you press 1, that will put you into queue to talk with our host. We encourage you to call in with comments or questions, allowing you to strengthen and deepen your practice of forgiveness. Kind of like Jill just did.
Yep. And so, Michelle, the 703 is a person who's had their hand up for quite a while, and we haven't talked to them yet, if you want to.
All right, 703, your microphone is live. How are you doing, and where are you calling from?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me?
You sound very clear. Thank you.
I'll take y'all's speakerphone. My name is Steve. I'm calling you from the Winchester, Virginia area. And I was actually calling in to tell Michael a few things, so hopefully he can hear. I came across his YouTube channel a few days ago, and I just wanted to tell him how grateful that I am for his work and the reason why. I'm a foster and adoptive parent, and we have adopted a sibling group of 3 that we've had for 6 years. We adopted them about 3.5 years ago, and they were 2.5, 4, and 5 when they came to us, and basically a situation where DSS drops them off and says we don't know much about them, good luck type of a deal. And it turns out that they came from a very, very violent, abusive, and neglectful situation. And over the ensuing time period, we came to realize that we had our hands full. And I'll tell you this, that at that time I'd spent nearly 2 decades in Christian ministry, really involved in Christ-centered overcoming type programs, and my wife is a school counselor by trade, so we thought we were ready for this. And we found out really quickly that we were wrong. And there was a moment that happened shortly into it, a few months into it, where my wife was at her job and I was taking the kids the oldest was in kindergarten and the other 2 were going to daycare, and they were having PTSD meltdowns. We were just starting to learn, just got a pediatric psychologist on board and just started to learn where they were at. And that morning they were all triggered and all having simultaneous meltdowns, and I got them into my vehicle partially dressed and sat in the driveway, and I don't know if I said it out loud or not. I just said, "Gosh, I can't do this." And in that moment, I heard a soft, quiet voice say to me, "You're right, you're the problem." And it was then that I realized that now I know through Michael's work, I have the app and I'm working through it. I knew immediately that I called them expectations, but they were goals. You know, I really believed that these kids were going to come into our home, a loving home, a nice home, and appreciate that they would receive our love, and that they would, I don't know what I was expecting other than I didn't get it. And in that moment, God let me know, thankfully, that I was the problem. And over the last few years, I've studying scripture and studying in the Greek even, realized that I missed out on the whole love story of Jesus, and that I had turned into a Pharisee. So we'll just fast forward now. And back then I called what I was going through, I called it the Unoffendable Project. I knew that I needed to become unoffendable in dealing with my children. If I was going to make it, and if they were going to see any progress, I knew this friction of me expecting them to do better and them having no shot to do better at that time, I knew that was a problem. So fast forward to a few days ago, and I see Michael's videos, and first one I saw was the 5 Aramaic Keys sermon in a church, and I just sat and bawled, because I realized, in that moment, I realized that, number one, the Aramaic love story of Jesus was turned into a Greek tragedy. And that's what I've been doing for 2 decades. So that was great, and there was an amazing awakening there. And then the other thing that I learned was that even though I had discovered I was the problem, I didn't know what to do about it. And that's what I want to thank Michael for, that now I know what to do about it. I work in a community of foster and adoptive parents here in Virginia, and I'm so excited to bring his work to the whole community, because I know what a huge problem it is. Hopefully
well, I'm excited to be on your team. I am excited to be on your team. That's awesome. And it's clear that from the, coming up with the Unoffendability Project, which is an awesome title, we could talk about speech as a different objective there, a different thing, but it sounds clear, right, like you've been guided. You're already being taught by Ruka, and that's the real teacher. That's where it's really at. But, there's nothing like a little help from our friends either.
Well, yeah, I've had this feeling in me, the guidance that I'm getting. I've had this knowing that something is horribly wrong with the translation in the Bible. Me and a good friend of mine have this saying, lost in translation, about not just the New Testament, the whole Bible. But I would love to sit and drink coffee and talk with you for hours. Yeah.
It was a terrible movie. But that's it exactly. Was your workshop called Communication? Did you hear what I think I said?
Right. So this is what I wanted to ask you specifically about my situation and these 3 children, and see if you have any advice on a really specific thing. And hopefully, maybe there's some parents out there that are going through this. But
cool.
I have a sibling. We have a sibling group of 3 kids that they've been diagnosed with PTSD, reactive attachment disorder. Of course, they all get the ADHD, but it's different flavors, and you don't know how much, and they have anxiety issues. So you don't know how that intermingles, but it all comes from a very
These are 3 kids that you're taking care of in your community home?
We adopted them. So we've had them for 6 years.
Okay.
We are at the point now where if my wife or I have any of the 3 pulled out for any reason, they literally are a different human being. And we can spend the whole day, there's no meltdowns, they're joyful. But the second they re-enter the sibling, I actually call it sibling deal, its own individual person. Everything changes. Their physical mannerism changes, their face changes, everything changes immediately.
Persona changes.
And I can tell they don't have a clue why. They have no idea. They're 10, 9, and 8 now.
Right.
So
we open the understanding of that in our codependence to interdependence workshop, just for a quick window. So when we're exposed to someone, usually a parent, not always, and there are 3 criteria that we lay out for developing this power person dynamic in somebody's life. One is if somebody's got more control over their lives than they do. 2 is that person is not functioning as a human being. It's not functioning as love. 3 is that when that person is not functioning as love, the object of the situation perceives the circumstance as survival, i.e., I could die here. Okay? So those 3 things mean that the child opens its field wholly, totally, although not always a child. It can be an adult, too. If those 3 criteria happen to somebody who's 80 years of age, this power person dynamic will develop. Once the power person dynamic has installed, the child is open, again, usually a child, but the person has opened their energy field, and it's like it's installed that whole set of software. Now and forevermore, until that person can deal with that power person dynamic, there are only 3 behaviors possible in their lives. Number 1 behavior is when there's no stress, and it's all related to stress. When there's no stress, they'll do whatever they did to get along with their power person. When stress starts to build, they'll do what they did to resist and survive with their power person. When they become ultra stressed, they'll do what their power person did to them that they hated the most. Now, the thing that creates stress is goals. So you take one of those children out of that environment, they don't have a goal or 100 goals for all the frustrating, angry experiences they've had with sibling 1 or sibling 2. They're free of those goals. None of those goals are active. So that stress factor is gone, and now instead of functioning out of that 3rd level, ultra stress, and doing what their power person did to them that they hated the most, they're functioning out of what they did to get along with their power person. So they're reasonable, they're sane, they're easy to get along with. Put them back in that environment, and those goals become active again, and bingo, they're back into power person behavior.
Right.
So the most important thing I would offer that you could do, and if you go to our website, or you don't have to go to the website, go to your app store in your phone.
Already got it.
And it's on the website. Download the app, and there's a game called the Drag on Klingon game.
Okay.
Start working with the kids to teach them One, to be responsible for their own feelings, which means to start to look at their thoughts and their thought disorders. And two, teach them to cancel goals. When you look at them and they're pointing their rage at, sibling one, and you say, well, what is it you want from them? Well, they took my stuff and I just want them to leave me alone and give it to me. So you teach them to cancel the goal, 2 goals, to leave them alone and to give them their stuff. And then you take them to the next level where it's really, well, I want to be taken care of by my sibling. This is the older sibling and the younger sibling is wanting to be taken care of. So you teach them to cancel the goal to be taken care of by the sibling. Well, I just want them to care about me. And then you teach them to cancel the goal for them to care about them. As they start to, one by one, remove all of these active goals. And what we found is that once a goal is established in the mind, there are only 2 ways to get rid of it. It's either got to be accomplished or it's got to be canceled. Otherwise, it operates forever. These kids, if nobody interrupts this power person dynamic, these kids, 60 years from now, will be playing out these same behaviors, these same things.
Right.
So as you teach them to cancel these goals, they will reduce their levels of stress around each other, and they'll be able to move back down from doing what they did that their power person did to them that they hated the most, to doing what they did to resist and survive with their power person, to getting back to a normal personality and functioning like a human being. That's the process. And of course, if you've got 3 of them that come from that kind of environment, what do their genes look like? It's going to be an intense. I don't know if did you see the movie Instant Family?
Yes. Yeah.
Powerful.
And
powerful. It's like it's your circumstance, right?
I don't know their biological family, but I know enough about their biological family that the biological father committed suicide while they were foster kids with us, and but the biological mother were both disability, bipolar, and both sides of the family as well. And we do know that they endured physical and sexual abuse, and drugs in utero, and the whole deal. So we know we got a lot of work ahead of us.
You've got some work ahead of you, and isn't it awesome that one of my favorite statements about kids is that having a child is like having your unconscious mind hang out in true living color and Dolby sound. They'll give you every opportunity you need to learn forgiveness.
Well, and this is the last thing I'll leave you with. So
go for it.
So as a child, both of my parents were chain smoking alcoholics, and I had a horrible stutter as a child, and so I was an introvert, and I spent all the way up until my senior year of high school was that way, and I'm a singer-songwriter, and I write books, and I've been doing that ever since I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and spending all that time alone, and this whole process. I mean, I spent all day yesterday doing worksheets myself. That I thought that I had overcome all of that. I think my stuttering was because of the situation in the home. It was a very anxiety. My mom was kind of very anxious, and there was a heavy feeling, is all I can remember as a child, and I would just go to my room and stay there. But I thought that was all gone. I've been I've been doing ministry. I've been helping others all these years, and then these kids show up and they push these buttons I didn't even know I had.
True living color and Dolby sound.
Yeah, so
that's their job.
So I'm thankful to you, number one, for your work, because it's great that I had divine intervention and I was made to face the fact that I was the problem, but now having the tools to do something about it, which is, my biggest gripe with the air quotes church is that there's nobody knows how to do it.
Yeah, the how-to of Yeshua's work was disappeared when it was translated into Greek. It took me 30 years. What you've seen me explain as the forgiveness process in Aramaic. It took me 30 years of working with the original Aramaic words first century means. To comprehend that, to be able to put that together, to put together the science background that I had, the physics, the psychology, and to see how the mind works and how that works. So I understand why the Greeks didn't get it, but what they interjected was just tragic, and it's
right.
led to centuries of unnecessary suffering for billions of people.
Can I ask you two scripture questions real quick?
Sure.
When Jesus is with the woman at the well, and he ends up telling her that the Father seeks those who worship, the word worship is used there, and
right.
My Bible says spirit and truth, but even in the Greek it can be read that worship in the spiritual realm as reality. In the Aramaic, does it actually say that their mind energy is reality versus the effects being reality? Is that really what he says?
Well, the opening words in the book of John don't say in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh. They say in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh. But that particular passage, it's in spirit, the word ruka, and worship is to emulate love, to emulate the Creator.
Right.
Is to do that in ruka, and that's what the Greeks translate as the Holy Spirit, but it's not a disembodied spirit being. It's actually the breath. When I stay connected to the breath, I keep the energy moving through me that locks me into hostility or fear. Therefore, I can emulate love. I can emulate the Creator. I can do my job. And then
so it actually says to do that as reality.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
And then, in truth, what happens is that, there's some Harvard research we talk about that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the max amount of data that goes into conscious awareness is 9 bits. When I fill my 9-bit mind, which is the only awareness I can have at any given moment, unless I'm totally, completely spiritually awake, when I fill the 9-bit mind with a lie, and then I call the lie truth, then I become impervious to truth. Truth bounces off of me. I'm now living in blockage of truth, believing that my lie is the truth. And until I can collapse that, which is what forgiveness does, and I can let the space in for the underlying dynamics of my hostility and fear-based understanding to be dissolved, and then Ruka comes in and teaches me directly. And I'm freed from the hostility and fear dream. And now the antidote for blockage of truth is love of truth. And so the other piece of that passage is that we need to have this antidote in action, and that is love of truth, rather than living in blockage of truth. And blockage of truth, is virtually universal. How many people have ever said, you made me so mad, you hurt me, you upset me, you really have a problem, And the person who gets honest with themselves says, well, let me see now. I've been through that anger, that mad, that sad 87 different times with 42 different people. Maybe it's mine. Wow, truth. And now I love truth and go, okay, so what's the part of me that I need to heal here? And now I invite that ruka, that feminine elemental force in us that undoes the effects of my errors and teaches me the truth. I invite that into activity. Now I'm fulfilling that particular scripture. That would be my offering on it.
And that's kind of where I'm headed there. That like a lot of other things, it was taken. I look at the Aramaic language as a flower, and the Greek language is like a surgical instrument. It's like, that's what's happened to so much scripture. But the last thing I want to ask you is that in one of the most famous Christian scriptures, 2 Timothy 3:16, that says all scriptures God breathed or God inspired. The word for breathed is a word that it appears that they made it up. It's only used there and no other place in the Bible. And it's a version of the pneustos, but it's like pneustasis or pneumostasis or something like that. And the origin, it's of unknown origin, not used anywhere else in the Bible, and it just appears that the Greeks just made up a word that said God breathed this. You got anything on that one?
Well, my take would be that if you go to the original Aramaic, it doesn't say God sent out His Spirit; it says God sent out His breath.
Right.
It's our direct link to the Creator. And so, and you'll notice you watch these kids when they're in trauma, or you watch yourself responding to their trauma, what's the first thing that you or they do? You cut off your breath.
Yeah, all three of my kids literally hold their breaths.
Yeah. And notice when they get rowdy and stuff is coming up for you, you do the same. We all do, until we become conscious of it and stop denying the spirit, stop denying the breath, and allow the breath to come forward and to move in us. And it's, in Aramaic, again, it's she, feminine, not masculine, who undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. So when you allow the breath to move in you, then she moves in you, and she undoes the insanity no matter how many generations. It's like when you really are willing and you invite her into the deepest levels of your being, she literally undoes all generational impact. I mean, processes us right down to our genetic toes. And then says, okay, so here's the truth. Then teaches us the inner tutor, the intuition.
And thank you, because I'm already experiencing that and deeply inside of myself. There's already things in just a few days that I'm already sensing, feeling very much lower stress level that prior to doing the worksheets would have been really, really hard for me. So thanks for that.
It works.
And also,
awesome.
Thank you for defining what it means to grieve the spirit and what you just said, because that makes so much sense where none of the religious mumbo jumbo does. But your explanation right there is perfect sanity on what that means.
That's where we're headed.
Deny it. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Shut it off.
You.
Don't allow it to move.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir.
All right. Tell you what, if you would drop Jeannie an email with your phone number and where you are. Where are you in Virginia?
Winchester. I'm out in the Shenandoah Valley, just about 90 miles west of D.C.
Oh, okay. So you're up northern Virginia. Okay.
Yep.
Because I'm actually down the very southern right now. Well, I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio right now, but we're staying at this moment in Bristol, Virginia, down the southern end. So wish you were closer. Before I get back to Heartland, I could maybe make a trip there, but I'm not sure I'd get that far down the road at this point. I've only got a few weeks before I head back to do our summer intensive season.
Well, I'm planning to come see you down there, so I have a whole bunch of friends, and I have a bunch of friends and church family in northern Louisiana, and that's a whole other long part of the story that I'll tell you someday.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I'll look forward to hearing it, but drop Jeannie, Jeanie, at whyagain.org, whyagain.org, our website, and I'll be giving you a call.
I will do. Thank you, sir.
All right. Blessings. Delighted. Honored. All right.
Blessings
to
you.
And Steve, before you go, are you there? Okay, so Steve,
go for it, Doc.
I just put this on the recording that if he sends me an email at the mindshifters-academy.org, tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, I'll be happy to send him the Power Struggle Handbook and a copy or two of that, because I'm sure that would be useful.
Sweet. Well, I'll make sure he gets to hear that. How are you, sir?
Blessed and highly favored, as you like to say.
All right.
Yeah, we were graced
I'm with
with
you on
a glorious call from Jill for our first hour, and so there's another worksheet process for the books, and I'm doing well. I'm grateful to be on the team, and looking forward to another Mind Shifters group tonight, and people can join us there through Zoom from 6:30 to 9 Central. I didn't even get a chance to mention this on my half of the show because Jill called right away. So they can go to mindshifters-academy.org and check on the Mind Shifters or the support group tab, and they can find out all the information for that, and we'd be happy to have anybody join us for that.
Sweet. And maybe I'm driving, so maybe you could drop Jeannie an email and just let her know that today's show was a worksheet so she can put it in that worksheet set.
All right.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited and delighted, and I'm rocking. I'm doing well. I'm up here visiting with Dr. Lenny. We were going to do a Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop on Saturday, but as it turns out, with it being Easter Saturday, it just wasn't good timing, so it looks like we're not going to do that. But I've been working with some people here and getting a little bit of support from Dr. Lenny, and just been sweet and awesome, and just totally, completely filled with gratitude. One of the experiences I had this last Saturday, we had Aria, and I'm just sitting with her. I've talked about doing that several times, really tapping into and being in the space with her. And the thing that came through on a new level in interaction with her was just a new appreciation for life and just how precious every life is. And as I had that insight, it gave me the opportunity to process and do some worksheets around times in my life where I haven't treated the life around me as so precious. So it was a nice, subtle but powerful opening for me. Precious each and every life is, and how I got trapped. I trapped myself in this belief that, well, it's just whatever it is, as opposed to how awesome it is, and the fact that we get to have a human life is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Indeed. So, Michelle, what's new with you?
I've been dealing with some health symptoms and trying to get to the bottom of where the emotional roots are.
Well, we'll certainly hold the space for you. Is there anything we do to support you in that?
I think I'll pass right now.
Okay. Well, we'll just hold the space then.
Yeah, that would be good. Maybe another day for sure. I welcome it, but I know that I'm going to be sending this show to some new people, and I just want to be a little more gentle about their introduction. I have a tendency to be overly passionate, and then some people get spooked. I'm noticing this pattern. I need to just temper myself a little more in the therapy room, because I get enthusiastic if someone's willing, and then I can get them off pretty quickly.
Bring up more than people are ready to deal with.
Yes, that's it. So you've
well,
been
of course,
there, right?
it's about building. It's about sure I have. Yes, it's about building brain cells. Having people really open the space and build the brain cells for what something means. And I was processing with someone this morning, and they were asking about, well, when I was a kid, I was searching for this, searching. I didn't understand why. I said, well, you obviously had some brain cells. Was it genetic? Was it what the world calls past lives? Whatever. What brought you to have an attraction to it? So, well, it was just an accident. It's like, no, there are no accidents. You have to have, Yeshua talked about, you've got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. You've got to have the brain cells for something before you can even look and see it, before you can perceive it, or your mind can generate anything. And the brain cells have to be accurate in order to generate accurate information about whatever that object of attention is. And the example that it occurred to me to use was Aria, our new granddaughter. She's going into her 8th month of traveling around the sun now. But, the kids had 3 months off work when she was born. So along about the 4th month, Jeannie and I started taking care of her 3 days a week. And by that point, we had a camera on the phone. If you take a picture, she'd respond to the camera, and we'd show her pictures of herself, and she'd sort of, really be interested in that. But, if I showed her a cell phone when she was born, there'd have been no response to a cell phone. At 3 months, she was able to understand something about a cell phone in a way that would motivate her to pay attention. And then we had a particular phone that we used to FaceTime with her mom. Thanks to Obamacare, her mom has a private space in her office where she can go and pump milk privately. And so in order to stimulate that, whenever she's pumping, she calls, because, of course, contact with the baby, conversation with the baby visually causes the milk to drop and flow more easily. So we have a particular phone that we use for that. And when she calls, there's a ring on that phone that is her ring. One time she called Arya. She's 4 months around the sun now. We show her the phone, and she has this interaction with her mom on the phone. The second time the phone rang, she turned to the phone and knew what it was. Building brain cells. And now when the phone rings, it's just, you can see her going, this whole bright thing about mom. But literally from where at birth there had been no response whatsoever to a phone, she's been building brain cells. And the second time she hears her mom's ring, she turns to the phone. And people don't recognize truth until they've got the brain cells for it. So, to me, the important thing is to inspire people to stay around long enough and approach it often enough, utilize it often enough to build the brain cells so that they recognize a principle when it comes to them, as opposed to, the treatment that a newborn would give to a cell phone. It's like no response whatsoever. So building brain cells is what it's all about, and each layer, each level of building brain cells is another step in the process. So it's pretty awesome to get to do it. Yes, ma'am.
That's really helpful, because this whole show is just getting forwarded to half my caseload. But we've got another caller here. It's area code 781. Your microphone is on now. And who do we have, and where are you calling from?
This is Ron from Massachusetts.
Well, young man, I
hello.
was thinking about you the other day. We haven't heard your voice in a while. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been a delight. Yesterday's call was really neat. I listened to, I call it a call because that's how I interface with it. But the show was really neat yesterday. I loved the feedback.
Right.
Actually, it's 2 days ago I was thinking about. But I called. I had to press the button today because I heard you talking about the baby, and I recently had an experience I'd like to share, if that's okay.
Please, go for it.
Just a seemingly little thing. So I'm working at the house today, and my wife and kids are home. And yesterday, it was this morning, in fact. I've been doing my work all along and playing with some pretty deep work around giving up my sense of being as a small child in the world. And a piece of regulatory speech came out. I observed. It came out of my wife, but it was a message for me in my world, which was, she just said, she goes, I just changed you to my little baby son. And she was referring to changing his diaper. And she said, and I just thought about how regulatory speech comes out about how we change the baby. And I instantly thought of you. I thought of you, and it's not change the diaper, it's change the baby. I just thought of you and regulatory speech and what I'm processing, and how now, of course, when I was more of a beginner at this, I would have taken up the flag I got to go out in the world and stop everybody from saying change the baby and get them to say change the diaper, which is not the point. The point is just for me to kind of breathe into that and notice, okay, what do I have to process? I've got some very vivid images with my parents and the world, and I also now, as a parent, can see, just more and more opportunities to soften and be with my son and daughter, who's older, but because boy, when it's time to go, and Daddy needs to, get the baby in the car seat, it's very. I can slip into, it's difficult to say, but I can slip into treating him like a thing that has to be packed instead of my beautiful,
like
you said, precious son.
Life gives you opportunities to learn forgiveness, eh? How cool is that?
Yeah. And
you probably weren't on the show a few weeks ago when I shared a Facebook post that had come across my Facebook page, and it was a church sign. And it was said, ladies, unless he's wearing diapers, you can't change him. I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah. So So do you obviously understand what I'm saying about that and the regulatory
Got it,
speech
loud and
aspect?
clear.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Um,
And how is Baby Grace, who's not baby anymore?
She's phenomenal. She's teaching me every day, and she's just thriving. She came in second place in 2 of her events at her track team with the varsity team, even though she's only in 8th grade. And Mom and I are having fun, and Baby's having fun, and I may be in your neck of the woods soon in Kansas City, which is close enough. So we'll see if I can arrange a visit if that happens. And I'll try to. I keep saying I'll be on the show more often. I've been listening more. I haven't been speaking very much. Yeah, and if I can, a little bit of process. I'll process a little more if that's okay.
Go for it. You are the object of attention right now, the focus of what we're here for. By the way, just before you actually start into that process, just in case we go into the end of the show, we've got about 12 minutes. So just in case we go into the end of the show, I just want to put into this space, a couple of days ago we were holding a space for Patrick, and Patrick just yesterday had 3 blood transfusions, and is having some real challenges. They're actually moving him from the hospital today into a rehab facility near the hospital so that he can travel back and forth to get treatment. They have not yet come up with a diagnosis. But if everybody would just take a moment to just hold Patrick in the space of love, send him that love and that support. He's being challenged. He's having some lung challenges, so just see his lungs opening and being free of whatever's going on there. And that his blood system goes into proper production of red blood cells, which is a challenge, and that he's whole and well and rocking. So everybody would just breathe into that one for a second. And then to extend that, Julie has been one of Patrick's main support systems for many years now. And of course, she's working with, I think about 18 different people that are coming to the intensive or an intensive this summer. And she's working 2 hours a week with them, so it's a pretty full week. And so let's just send some support to Julie and holding a space for her to soften and be supported in this huge contribution that she's making to Heartland and to the people that are coming to intensives. They're going to be deeply practiced in the use of the tools, and it's going to just uplift each of them at a whole new level in the when they do come and do the intensive. So thank you, Julie, and we're holding the space for both you and Patrick. And one other little thing, big thing actually, and that is Ken and Linda are just working like Trojans at Heartland. They had a trencher come in and dig up 1,000 feet all the way down to the pump house. Big trench to put in new water lines, new underground electric lines, and they've really been working hard. So just send them some love and support and appreciation for what they're doing to bring Heartland up to the next level of functionality for the platform from which this work jumps from. So thank you, and let's go for it. What's on your mind?
I'm just being with the energy of what you just shared, and those are some special people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like the rest of us. Yeah.
Yes. I noticed the word special because it's in a Course in Miracles environment. That word is, or any environment maybe, that word is a hot one.
Yeah.
They're cherished people. How about that? Just
Yay.
like the rest of us.
I join you in that for sure.
I was doing a mind shifter about I was working on trying to create some positive, what I called amazing pictures of my future, and I found all this. What I found was anger, and I actually did a worksheet on the word amazing, and what came up for me was that when I wrote the word amazing in the mind shifter, it just anger came in and blocked my ability to see any pictures at all, a vision for my life. And then when I wanted to punish, what I wanted to do was go after my father. I wanted to go after him and really just go after him. And then
what does go after him mean?
Kill him.
That's big stuff.
Yeah. I want to strike fear into him and make him. I mean, I threw out kill him because it was the most. I just wanted to let loose, but I want to make him afraid that I'm going to kill him. You know, that part of me does.
So you want to repeat.
I don't consciously want that.
Yeah. So you want to carry on the family tradition, the power person dynamic. So under stress, as all that's coming up, you want to do what your father did that you hated the most, and that was inspire such fear that there would be fear of death. Yeah. Wow, that would be a good one to get free of in the bloodline.
Yeah.
How many generations? You know, think about when you're putting the baby in that carrier to get in the car, and you want to treat him like an object, and what comes up in that process. And is it the tendency when you're under stress, got to go, all the stuff in the car, got an appointment, with all those goals lined up? Does that put you at a level of stress where you could easily be tempted to do what your power person did to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And notice that in 1 billion years in your conscious state, you would not conceive of such a thing, of doing such a thing to your son, right? In 1 billion years.
Yeah,
the only thing that would incline you, and the only thing that would incline you toward that is a power person dynamic that's been going on in the family for who knows how many hundreds of generations. And then notice that the same is true for your father. In 1 billion years, your father would never think of inspiring fear in you. Except that there's a power person dynamic that when there are enough goals loaded that I go to that ultra stressed place, my power person behavior takes over, and I want to do what the generations have done because I would ever do it out of any conscious volition, but because the program's there to do it.
Here's the way.
So I'd invite you. Yeah. So as you find the space to bring compassion to yourself and realizing it's a reactive thing that you can just pass on and recognize that you're not doing that. Your father didn't have the benefit of the tools to be able to refuse that inclination when it came into activity. And I invite you to bring the compassion into the space for him, because if you could imagine yourself being under such stress that you would turn that energy toward your son and make a victim of him as your father did of you, the grief, the pain that would be there doing that would be monumental. And as you become aware of that, you can start to embrace some of that grief and that pain in compassion with the active presence of love and literally allow it to be dissolved from the family system.
Wow. I just perceived a cage that I had around my chest and lungs around, as I heard you do that breath, just this energetic kind of cage structure just to try to stay safe, I guess to try to stay safe and keep the energy locked away.
Yeah. Protection.
Yeah, and when I consciously go to breathe, because I'm so practiced at it, call to shut down the breath is so deep. I actually wrote about that this morning as I was working on, or yesterday, I don't remember, but how deep in my solar plexus that call to shut down my breath was. I'd never felt it at that level before. I never felt that level of closing my breath down happen at such a deep place. So I guess that's real progress, and I'm pleased about that. But wow.
Yeah. And that's the real, in the Aramaic language, that's the real denial of the Holy Spirit. That's what it is shutting down the breath. Again, it doesn't say in the scriptures, God sent out Spirit, it says God sent out his breath. And notice when we're going to fall into being guided by the reactive power person behaviors stored in carbon-based memory, that we shut the breath down to do it. You cut yourself off from that direct relationship with love. It is the restoration of that heals us. I congratulate you for the shift that in one generation you have made in your family system and made available to the world. It's awesome. It's awesome to have watched you from day one, your first intensive, 25 years ago. It's awesome to watch you.
I tell my daughter, I said, I didn't go to Heartland, I collided with Heartland.
Oh, that's a good way to say it. That was a pretty intense time. I remember back to your personal code evaluation stories, and you were having some pretty tough stuff going on.
Oh, I remember I came barreling in a convertible Mustang I rented with loud music, and just it's a miracle that I made it there. It's a whole bunch of miracles that I made it there.
Well, I appreciate how you've taken a hold of it and integrated it into your family. It's just awesome to watch. If your work were the only thing I could see as a result from all the years of work I've done, it would all have been worthwhile.
God bless you for saying that. That's amazing. That's
well,
amazing.
God bless you for doing it.
You have become such an important part of my family. Everybody, it's just amazing. And I am one thing that I'm really excited and delighted about is, and for any of us out there which could be me tomorrow, are doing worksheets and feeling like it's just hopeless and there's no progress if that hopelessness is up or whatever. One thing I used to love to hear from you is that you'd feel like you're just getting started. After all these years, you feel like you're just having these great breakthroughs. And I can say that now. I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like,
Yep.
That brings it up for me.
I hear you.
Like I'm just getting started with what I can do with this work. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, when you recognize that in 30 generations there are over 1.7 billion in each of our bloodlines, it's a pretty big, chunk to bite off.
Yeah, and there's, I guess there's two ways of saying I feel like I'm just getting started. One is like, oh, such a big hill to climb, but another is, wow, this is exciting, and I'm kind of in the wow, This is exciting.
I hear you, and I'm with you, and we're down to the last few seconds. The show's going to cut us off, so I'm going to say that if there's more for us to process or talk about, I'd be honored and delighted to continue the conversation tomorrow. And in the meantime, everybody, create the best year yet of your eternal lives. It's an awesome gift to give the world. Blessings.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.